working closely with CCWD, Calaveras County Water District, and they also have a couple on the call. I don't know if any of them would like to introduce themselves before we hand it off to Katie Cole. Vanna maybe, or Andrew?
I'm trying to come on camera, but it looks like it's not working well. So at any rate, yeah, hi, Andrew Renshaw, Water Resources Manager at CCWD. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this effort, and thanks to Gianna and Stockton East for collaborating with us, and certainly the Water and Kern team. So yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, I think Katie, now if you want to go ahead and start, that'd be great.
All right, well, thank you again for all being here today. We have a number of things we would like to get through. We'll jump right in, start with our agenda for today. Briefly touch on our progress. We've been working on this effort for a little over a year. And so we want to just kind of walk you through briefly what progress we've made and where we're going from here. The bulk of our time is going to be talking about our water management adaptation strategies. So for those of you that attended in October, we talked about our wildfire strategies. I will briefly touch on those today, but the lion's share of our meeting today is going to be focusing on the adaptation strategies specifically related to water management. And then we're going to have some activities for you all at the end to participate, really providing your thoughts on what the future of this effort looks like and the future of the Watershed Network looks like, as well as any recommendations for statewide rollout. I'll present here in a minute. You know, being one of the pilot watersheds, we have a really unique opportunity to share our thoughts to the Department of Water Resources as they look to potentially roll this out statewide. And then we'll talk about next steps. All right, so jumping right into progress. It's a little bit of background for those that have attended Touchpoint meetings in the past. This will look familiar, but the Department of Water Resources launched the Watershed Resilience Program as part of the California Water Plan in 2023. And those of you who knew the IRWM program, the resilience program is really an evolution of that. I think that's how we're kind of viewing it, and I think how DWR is viewing it as well. So it really takes advantage of local relationships that have already been established, the collaborative planning that's already gone on as part of IRWM. What's a bit different about this effort is that it really places, I would say, a much stronger emphasis on the climate piece, climate vulnerability, adaptation planning, and then watershed-wide collaboration. So the 2024 pilot program grant was won by Stockton East Water District, and as Gianna mentioned in the beginning, they have been collaborating very closely with Calaveras County Water District as kind of their upper watershed partner in putting together this Calaveras watershed plan. The photo there, or the image there on the right, one of 5 pilot watersheds throughout the state. So, you know, again, a unique opportunity to help guide what the future of this effort looks like. So as I mentioned, we have done a lot in a little over a year. We really started out with drafting problem statements. What does climate change look like in this watershed that's unique to this watershed? Developing goals and objectives for our work and the plan long term. We talked about those at Touchpoint meetings in February before finalizing them. We've held a number of public outreach activities through what we're calling touch points, either meetings like this or individual meetings with agencies as needed. We've developed an online platform and use that to get feedback, post information. And then getting feedback, as I mentioned, through these in-person meetings and that online platform. So a lot of work in kind of the public outreach and engagement sphere, and certainly a lot of work in the more technical aspects this effort. So developing an analytical framework to guide our technical analysis as it relates to climate risk and vulnerability. We've quantified water flows and volumes for both the upper and lower watersheds using publicly available tools. We've prepared our climate change vulnerability analysis to help us understand what climate change looks like in our watershed. And then modeled benefits of particular projects and strategies to figure out how much we can address some of those climate change impacts. We've coordinated with DWR, both their planning and climate change modeling teams. We will be submitting the final report to them in end of Q1 next year before finalizing it and presenting it to you all. So we've held a number of Watershed Network meetings, as I mentioned, February 2025, vision, goals, and objectives. We presented the climate vulnerability and risk work in June. October, we talked about kind of high-level modeling results and adaptation strategies specifically centered on the wildfire. Today, we're going to be kind of wrapping that discussion up with our water management strategies, looking ahead to the future of the plan and getting some of your feedback around that. Our final touch point we anticipate happening in March of next year, and that one is really centered around presenting the final plan and how, and the contents of that plan and summarizing the work and kind of key findings around that. So we anticipate coming back to you with all that in March. As I mentioned, briefly touching on this, if you are interested in the wildfire aspects of our work, we did have that meeting in October and we did record it. It is on our website. We will drop that link. I think it's on one of our slides, but we can certainly drop that link in the chat as well if you're interested in taking a listen to that. But at a high level summary, that work identified 10 kind of priority zones for focused wildfire treatment efforts that really maximize risk reduction. So if we implement those strategies, these 10 zones would kind of give us the most bang for our buck, so to speak. Treatment options was really based on kind of local conditions, but looking at topography and sand density. Metrics that were part of this analysis, we looked at the post-treatment hazard. So if there was a significant change after treatment, what kind of structures were exposed, the infrastructure that a fire might come across. Erosion that would happen post-fire, as this watershed has experienced in the past, this can be pretty significant. Post-treatment water use, so how resilient is an ecosystem to wildfire, and some additional metrics. So there was a lot of work that went into this. More of this, as I mentioned, is discussed in the October meeting. So if you're interested, please take a listen. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and we are really going to shift gears and focus on the water management strategies today.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, and thank you all for being here. I know the week before a holiday is a little bit tough, so we really appreciate your time and attention today, and we're really glad to be able to go over this with you. As Katie mentioned, I'm really going to be focused here on the water management strategies that are associated with the plan at this point, and I'll walk through some examples of those. There are a great many, so we won't be hitting on everything today, but we do want to give you a sense of what strategies we've incorporated into the plan, so you know what the plan will result in the future. Before we get into that, though, I do want to just show this graphic again. This is just to remind everyone of the vulnerability modeling we did. So we included a really broad spectrum of scenarios that showed us what would happen with increases in temperature and precipitation. As you can see here in this graphic, we show change in temperature on the left y-axis and change in mean precipitation on the x-axis. So just to orient you with that graphic, each of the 15 dots that you see there are scenarios. So for example, the dot on the very top line on the far right shows a 5-degree increase in temperature and a 12.5% increase in mean precipitation. This little black dot that you see, there we go. This little black dot that you see here is current conditions. And so current conditions were also analyzed. So that gave us 16 different possible climate scenarios for us to look at as we evaluated the plan. The most probable scenario was this 2-degree increase in temperature with no change in precipitation. So with 16 scenarios, that's a lot. We really focused on the most probable scenario as well as the extremes to determine, what impacts we would see. And that was a really significant part of our analysis. So just a reminder of how we modeled the climate vulnerability to begin with. Following the modeling, we began to work on adaptation strategies. We're using the term strategies, which includes projects like building infrastructure, as well as programs or policies or concepts. And we have 3 different types of strategies. The first we're calling priority strategies, and those are where implementation is in progress. The second set are projects or programs that have been identified and are in planning documents and then in various stages of implementation. And then the third set are conceptual. So they could be projects we know about that we don't have information on yet, or things that we want to explore but just aren't far enough along yet to be incorporated into this work the way the others are. So there we go. So our first action, the first thing that we did was we took our priority strategies that I mentioned, that first box, and we put them into the model that you already saw. So we have 2 types of priority strategies, tier 1, which are just short-term high priority projects, and then tier 2 are long-term, and they require Farmington Dam expansion and some different reservoir operations. So all of these are priority projects, but we were able to split them into 2. We then ran our 16 scenarios again, but this time we ran it with no projects, with tier 1 projects and tier 2 projects. Then we analyzed the impact on the watershed in terms of supply, recharge, stream aquifer interaction, inner watershed flow, change in storage, and groundwater levels. If you attended the October meeting, you may remember that after we did this, we showed you what the impacts were. So we showed you, for example, what groundwater looked like under the climate change scenarios, what it looked like with tier 1 projects, what it looked like with tier 2 projects. So now we kind of just want to share what those projects are. We're hoping to give you a sense of what the priority strategies include. And you can see here they're primarily storage projects, conveyance projects, and recharge projects, specifically for that first set of priorities. And then if we move on to a list of them, this is that full list of priority projects. Again, the ones that are labeled tier 1 here are short-term, high priority. And tier 2 are long-term, require Farmington Dam, and require some different reservoir operation. So that's why they're sort of grouped differently. And I do want to call out the Farmington Dam project specifically because it is a really major component of looking at the strategies, because none of the tier 2 strategies can be implemented until the Farmington Dam repurpose project is implemented. So this is a pretty significant strategy within our plan and for the watershed as a whole. So yeah, I don't want to read you the slide, but as you can see here, this is a project that does aim to augment reservoir capacity in a pretty significant way. And in doing so, reduces groundwater demand, which has a very significant impact on the watershed. So this map shows where all of the priority strategies are, but I'm going to zoom in further as we go through them. So we'll go through a few examples here and provide some more detail. So the first example here is the Clements Pipeline and Reservoir Project, and you can see where this is. You'll see maps like this throughout the plan when the plan is complete. So the Clements Pipeline and Reservoir Project, Stockton East Water District plans to build a 15-acre regulating reservoir and recharge basin, which will divert water from Old Calaveras River to reduce groundwater dependence. The pipeline will supply surface water to about 450 acres across 21 parcels, grower parcels, which will save roughly 650 acre feet a year of groundwater. So this is a pretty significant project. It will also enable 1,600 acre feet a year of annual direct recharge with up to 2,200 acre feet a year possible through floodmar. So as you can see, this is a significant project that would have a big impact on the watershed, and we saw that when we got into our modeling. Another example is the West Groundwater Recharge Basin. You can see on the map where it's located. And so this project will allow for continuous recharge of surface and stormwater into the basin through multiple water sources. So it does depend on water availability, but the project could recharge between 1,500 and 16,000 acre feet a year, which obviously would have a pretty significant impact on long-term groundwater sustainability. With this project, water could come from New Hogan and New Melones reservoirs, with recharge occurring near the treatment plant. So another significant project within the watershed. I'm sure you're starting to see why these were the Tier 1 priority projects. Okay, and then the Beckman Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well, an ASR well. And so this is as I mentioned, an ASR well that'll be used for MyCup water and, for recharge and extraction. So another example of a way we can have some priority strategies incorporated into the watershed work. And the last project that I'll talk about here is the DeMartini Pipeline, which is a Tier 2 project, but still one of those priorities. This is a gravity-fed pipeline from the Old Calaveras River that would deliver surface water to about 300 acres across 13 grower parcels. So again, it would help reduce reliance on groundwater pumping. It's expected to conserve about 400 acre feet a year of groundwater and provide up to 1,000 acre feet average annual direct recharge. So again, another project that really has the potential to have a big impact on groundwater within the basin, and therefore the watershed itself, the full watershed. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the existing or other strategies. As I mentioned, these are in various stages of implementation, but we'll start with what we're calling existing. So this includes projects from many others in the watershed, in our watershed network. And you can see there's a much wider variety of projects at this point. So there's 41 total projects within this category. And you can see here we've got a significant amount of ecosystem restoration projects. There's stormwater flooding projects, storage. I won't read you the list here, but you can see that now that we've sort of spread out into some additional different types of strategies as we move into this category of strategies. I'll go through a few examples of these as well. So the White Pines Restoration Project, which is a CCWD project, is intended to help recover storage capacity in white pines that was lost due to sedimentation. The McGirt Crossing and Recharge Areas project is to improve fish passage and eliminate the need for the earth dam and then create opportunities for recharge. The New Hogan Reservoir Storage Assessment is an analysis that looks at options to mitigate against New Hogan being overwhelmed and eventually potentially spilling if there were a large storm event. And a demand reduction program for Eastern San Joaquin Subbasin would be an effort to curb demand if there was a supply shortage. So these are all examples of existing strategies that are in some level of implementation within the watershed that we know could have impact on the watershed basin, or I'm sorry, on the watershed itself, not just the basin. Also within this category, we have what we're calling other projects. And so in this category, we really looked through planning documents from many other agencies. And we were able to gather information from many publicly available documents here. So you can see here a long list of agencies whose plans we looked at, and then the 88 projects that we were able to identify by combing through some of the existing planning documents. So we have been able to gather some information on these, but these are going to show up in the plan as an appendix only. And the reason for that is that we're acknowledging that we know of these projects and we do have some information on them, but not necessarily at a high enough level to be incorporated into the climate resilience tracking or implementation. So it's important that we include these projects in the plan, especially depending on what happens for future implementation of the plan. But they will not be part of that climate resilience tracking process that we're building now. And then last but not least, we have what we're calling conceptual projects. So at this point, we'd modeled projects in the that were in existing planning documents. We found some gaps in mitigating climate risk. We looked for other strategies, and then eventually we moved into researching some additional strategies that maybe I'm going to use the word again, conceptual. Before we get to this point, we know that we still don't have enough strategies to meet the watershed resilience goals and targets within that we've identified previously. And so we are looking at conceptual strategies as well to incorporate into this effort that can help us address climate risk. I'm going to pause there and see if anyone has any questions about the strategies that we just went over, the strategy examples that we covered, or the types of strategies. And again, we really focused on the water management strategies here, as opposed to some of the others that we talked about before. But we really wanted to spend some time providing you updates and examples on what our water strategies are, our water management strategies. So any questions? Yes, Mary Elizabeth. Hi, nice to see you.
There. Okay. So, thank you. Sorry, I was just a few minutes late. I went through pretty fast, and I'd like to, look back on those maps a little bit to try to, figure out. And I appreciate that there's going to be all of those maps on the in the plan. Michael had a question, or Michelle, had a question about the presentation, and I just did a quick check. And when I went to the website and I went back to the October meeting, I saw the video, but I didn't actually see the slides.
You know what? You're right, Mary Elizabeth. I did not post the slides on the October meeting. I just posted the video. I apologize. That absolutely slipped my mind, but I will go back and do that.
Okay. All right. No problem. But I thank you, Hunton.
Not able to get on the site as a new user. Michelle, are you trying to create a login and it's not working? Okay. If you could put in the chat maybe what it's doing. It's just not taking you to the new user section? Or if you're comfortable coming off mute, we can talk through that as well.
Yes, I just went on and did like a new user, create an account, and after I created it, it said, you're not a valid account user. So yeah, it was pretty simplistic to get through it. It just is not acknowledging that I've set up anything. Maybe it takes 24 hours or something. I don't know.
It should be instant. Okay, when we get into the activity, maybe you and I can sidebar a little bit on that.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any additional questions on the strategies? Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about the future of the plan. And that is what our activity is going to be around today. As Katie mentioned, this is a pilot project. This is a pilot project for the state of California. And one of the really great things about that, at least in my perspective, is that we get to have some input, or we get to at least provide some feedback to the state on how to roll out this watershed resilience plan in other regions. We get to kind of share about what we've learned as in our experience as we've done this. And we do have some DWR representation on the call today. So that's great news. But we are preparing a report that will provide to share, you know, this kind of feedback. And we thought, rather than just us providing that feedback, it would be really nice if we were able to ask our watershed network their thoughts on it as well. So that's what we'll be focusing on in our activity today, not just what we do in our own region, which we do want to ask you about, but also how the state can best roll this out on a statewide basis. So we'll be talking about that here in just a minute. And just to summarize that, everything that we share will be provided to DWR, and your recommendations really have an opportunity here to help guide the future of stakeholder engagement, communication, and then how this is working in future watersheds. So let's start with the future of our own watershed resilience network, and we have sort of an online survey for you. So sorry, I clicked off of this and now I'm in the wrong spot. So one moment, I'll put this in the chat for you. So if I can have everybody hop to this website, we've got a couple of questions that we want to ask you. And, you know, Michelle, you may be able to answer these questions without creating a login. I'm not certain, but you may be able to do that. But these are the things that we're hoping that you'll provide some feedback for us on today. What information do you want to receive in the future from us, from the Calaveras River Watershed Resilience Planning Team? We'd love to know, after this plan is complete and submitted to DWR, you know, what would you like to hear about? We'd like to know what data, and this is a select all, what data could be useful to you in your own planning. So if you do any kind of planning, and if you don't, that's okay too, but what would be useful? What could we provide you that would help our community as a whole? And certainly if you have an other that we didn't list here, please put it in there. We'd like to know what your preferred method is for staying in touch with you in the future. And don't worry, if you prefer not to be contacted again, you will not hurt our feelings. We want you to be honest here. We want to make sure that we're doing work that's beneficial and useful to everyone. And then if you want to be involved as the plan evolves, we'd love to know what role you see for yourself. So if you could take a few minutes to fill out these 4 questions, that would be very helpful.
How does the model?
I'm sorry, Mary
sorry.
Elizabeth, I didn't catch that.
I know, you know what? I write and I talk to myself.
Oh,
I did it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm my own coach. Sorry.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. People
No
need
problem.
quiet too.
Okay, we're good to go. So go ahead and if you would start filling this out. Michelle, you and I can chat in the chat to see if I can get you squared away here. But we'll give you a few minutes to answer these questions. Great. Thanks to those of you who've been able to respond already. I'm seeing some really interesting comments. So let me go through a couple of those. So specifically related to data that might be of interest, some additional data might be how the plan would impact Calaveras River fish habitat and fish, recreational nature viewing opportunities, events where people can meet in person. What impacts would any changes on the school district properties? So that's interesting. So I think that's really about impact, right? How watershed strategies implementation is maybe having an impact on the community. And as far as future involvement, looks like we have some interest in roles that are pretty specific to different components of the plan, such as fisheries, habitat, ESA, listed fish species. Yeah, how this is maybe coordinating with what was DWR and how that evolution takes place. And then funding. I'm not surprised to see funding on there, as I do anticipate that lots of the projects and strategies will be looking for funding. Great. This is really useful feedback. Thank you so much. There's some really detailed answers, which we really appreciate. Did anybody, oh, it did work for you, Michelle? Okay, Michelle, I will connect with you on how to make sure you can get to that December stuff.
Okay, thank you. But I
yeah.
did get on. Thank you.
Great. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why it's giving you a hard time.
No worries.
Thanks. Does anyone want to share any additional thoughts on the future of this plan or your interaction with it? I appreciate very much the information within the forum, but just also want to give an opportunity if anybody wanted to share anything aloud. Okay. Well, we'll move on to our next activity. So after you push submit, oops, I'm in this place, so I can't. Apologies, I am the administrator, so it's going to make me go through a whole thing here. 1 second. But you should have an opportunity to go to this page. Does the next activity button work for you all? Did you get to this page where it asks for recommendations on a statewide rollout? I will also put this in the chat in case it's easier to just click this link. If anyone has trouble getting to this page, please let me know. So here we're asking a couple of questions really focused on the statewide rollout. So not just thinking about us as our watershed, but also thinking about what we might want to tell the state, what maybe advice or recommendations we would want to give the state as they look at opportunities to roll this program out across the state. So we'd love to hear from you what worked well in this process, what could be improved in future planning efforts, how the state can engage stakeholders like you, like the Watershed Network in other regions, and then what information would be helpful from the state, what for them to continue to provide, what would be valuable to you. And again, if you have an other, please specify. So again, we'll give you a few minutes to answer those questions. And if anyone has any questions or wants to share anything, please do. Also, I should have mentioned all questions are optional. So if there's a question that you don't want to answer, please do feel free to skip it. Thanks so much to those of you who have already submitted. We're getting some good information coming in. And, I'll just say thank you to those of you who said that this has worked well. That's really nice to hear. If you've been here from the beginning, we've really worked to get you incorporated. So it's very nice to hear that you feel that was successful and that you were, that this was a collaborative process. Looks like there's a lot of interest in updated projects, updated data, future funding opportunities. So that's great. That's great feedback for us to share with the state. Great. Okay. Again, I'll just pause for a moment. Is there anyone who'd like to share anything verbally in addition to what we asked in these questions? If there's anything that you think would be important for us to share with the state as they roll out, or anything you think is important for us to know about the future of this plan, we'd love to hear from you. So I'll just pause for a moment in case anyone would like to share. Mary Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you. So I do work on air quality with the California Air Resources Board and AB 617, and we have a area in Stockton that's an AB 617 community. And so what they have done, I think, which is new, something new that they're working on, is having convenings, where members that are on steering committees or local governments or interested parties for all the different communities, have gotten together to share best practices and to share, some strategies and challenges. And I think that that is a good model, and I want to uplift that effort. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's really interesting to hear about. That's something I'd like to know more about. So thank you for bringing that up. Great. Any others? Okay. Well, I think we may be wrapping up a bit early here, but that is okay as we all have lots to do, I'm sure, before the holiday. So I just want to go over our next steps. I think this is,
Before we do
oh,
that, can you
sure.
speak to if there were folks that couldn't attend today's meeting, or if folks attending today's meeting have additional thoughts that they think of at some point, can they go back in and complete that exercise?
Yes, thanks for asking that, Katie, and bringing that up. Yes, this exercise will stay open. So if you have additional thoughts, you're welcome to add them at any point. Of course, you can also email us anytime. We will post this recording on the website, but we will also leave this engagement activity up on the website as well. After these meetings, we normally send an email to our full Watershed network list, letting them know that this is available. So we will send that out as well. So if you know someone who you think might have some thoughts or input on this, they're welcome to jump on the site and share at any point. And again, they can just leave 1 or 2 comments if they want, or fill the whole thing out. That would be fine. And we will have this meeting available for them as well as the previous meetings. So we'll send out an email about that as we usually do. And it will remain open if you want to share any additional thoughts. You're also always welcome to email us directly if you have something you'd like to share. Okay, so our next steps are pretty important to share, I think, because at this point we are moving into plan development. So we've been working throughout this process with the Watershed Network, as you know, in the meetings that we've had previously, but we've also been working with what we're calling special expertise stakeholders on specific technical aspects of the plan. So, for example, we're working with habitat experts on habitat related things. We're talking to groundwater experts on groundwater related things and flood control, et cetera. So what we've done is we are now developing technical memorandums in alignment with those experts, and we'll be then pulling data from those TMs into the plan itself. So we're about to be pretty quiet. You're not going to hear from us for the next few months as we work with our local experts and we work with the Department of Water Resources and we work internally to draft the plan itself. And then our plan is to provide you a presentation about that plan in March. So going forward, this is our anticipated schedule. You probably will not hear from us for a while, unless many of you actually might, as you are special expertise stakeholders. So we may check in with you on specific things. But as a group, you won't hear from us again until we get ready for this plan overview workshop in March. The full plan will be completed in April. And as we've mentioned before, documents and reports will be added to our website when they're finalized. So everyone on this call obviously is already using the website, but do know that that'll continue to be a reference for you as we work through this plan. We're really looking forward to presenting the plan to you in March. I think there's been a lot of great work that's gone into this plan, not just by the project team, but by the Watershed Network, by all of you, by the special expertise stakeholders. And I'm really looking forward to having a final document that we can share with you when we get to that point. So just so you know, if you don't hear from us for a while, it's because we're working away and we are looking forward to bringing a plan forward for presentation in March. Any questions? Yes, Mary Elizabeth.
I was wondering, on those technical memoranda, if you were going to be releasing those along the way before the plan so that, folks that might not be technical experts can learn more and put things in context a little better.
I don't think that we are. Frankly, I don't think we can do that within the schedule that we're working in. Katie, do you want to correct me, or is that correct? Is that right?
That's correct. So Mary Elizabeth, the time that you'll have, we'll be releasing all of those technical memorandum when we release the final plan. They're essentially going to act as appendices to the plan. They So I'm trying to think, we've got probably 4 or 5 of them. The most hefty one is certainly related to all of the modeling and the climate modeling that was done. That is all going to be summarized in the report itself. So that'll be kind of the digestible bit, and then all of the kind of really dense technical information will be in those.
Yeah, I wasn't presuming to make comment on it, you know, just to have a little bit more time to read it. Yeah.
Yes. I hear you. And yeah, as Katie mentioned, just with schedule wise, do we have, I guess we didn't have a overall schedule slide, Katie.
I'm sorry, I didn't show the overall
No,
schedule today.
That's okay. We can briefly talk through it. So Mary Elizabeth, what we're as Katie mentioned, we're kind of entering this phase of like, you know, really writing this plan out. It's going to go to administrative draft. Stockton East and Calaveras County Water District will have an opportunity to review it and provide comment. And then it's going to go to DWR for review. When we come back to you in March, that's when we're going to kind of present the full plan to you, the various chapters, how it's kind of laid out and flows. And that will be the big document, roughly 100 pages, that will comprise this resilience plan. The other document that we are looking to prepare is a summary booklet that is much more, I would say, bite-sized and reader-friendly, something that you can kind of just pick up and flip through and kind of understand the broad scope of the work that we've done and key findings. So those will be kind of the, you know, the steps of kind of levels of documents, right? We'll have the technical memorandum that really get into detail. We'll have the 100-page resilience plan, and then we'll have kind of that summary booklet. And all of those will be released at the same time in March.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for spending some of your time with us today. I know this is a very busy time of year, so we're very grateful to you for giving us a little bit of time to go over this with you. We appreciate your input. We appreciate your input since February of last year, some of you December of 2024. So thanks for being a part of this process. We look forward to coming to you in the new year with a plan. So thanks for being here. Have a wonderful holiday season. And again, we appreciate your time.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
I'm trying to figure out how to stop the recording. Hold on. There we go. Okay, looks like we still have some folks on. Did you guys want to debrief? Do you want to jump onto a new call?
Sure.